I've always believed that trust is the foundation of a marriage. After 28 years with Linda, I thought I had that part figured out. Every morning, I'd kiss her goodbye before heading to my warehouse manager job, and she'd remind me to, "Have a good day, honey," with that warm smile of hers. Simple, reliable, like clockwork, just the way I liked things. Sure, maybe we weren't as passionate as those young couples you see in romantic movies, but we had something better: stability. At 56, I was proud of what we'd built together: a comfortable home, steady jobs, and a reputation as that reliable couple everyone wanted to be friends with. Linda's job at the admin department kept her busy, but she always made time for our weekly dinner dates. "Marriage is about the little things," she'd say, and I believed her. I was never much for technology. Linda handled most of that stuff: phones, computers, bills. She had a system, and it worked. I just needed to know enough to manage the warehouse inventory and make my calls. When bills came in, I'd sign the checks, and she'd take care of the rest. Some guys at work would joke about how their wives spent too much, but I never worried. Linda was practical, always finding the best deals and plans. That Thursday started like any other: coffee in my favorite mug, a quick goodbye kiss, and then off to work. The warehouse was bustling with its usual morning chaos: forklifts beeping, workers calling out inventory numbers, the familiar rhythm of another day. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have such a stable life while dealing with a shipment mix-up. My phone buzzed in my pocket around noon. Usually I'd ignore notifications during work, but something made me check this one. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe just random chance. Either way, that simple buzz would end up changing everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed: the way she'd step out to take calls during our TV time, how she'd gotten more protective of her phone lately. But hindsight's funny like that. It paints everything in obvious colors that you were blind to at the time. When you trust someone completely, you don't look for shadows in the corners of your life. You don't question the small changes because you believe in the big picture. But sometimes the truth doesn't need you to go looking for it. Sometimes it finds you in the most ordinary moments, like a notification about a mobile plan for two. The notification lit up my screen: "Your family plan for two has been renewed. Enjoy unlimited calls and messages between your connected numbers." At first, I almost swiped it away. Just another spam message, right? But something about those words, "plan for two," made me pause. Linda and I shared phone bills, sure, but I couldn't remember signing up for any special plan. I thumbed through my recent texts, found the full message from the carrier. "Thank you for continuing with Premium Family Plan for Two. Your connected numbers now receive bonus minutes and free unlimited calls between lines." "Connected numbers?" I muttered, drawing a curious look from Mike, one of my shift supervisors. I waved him off with a half-smile and stepped into my office, closing the door behind me. My fingers hovered over the carrier's customer service number. Part of me felt silly for even checking. Linda handled our phone plans, and she was always good with finding deals. But another part, a part I wasn't quite ready to acknowledge, needed to know. The hold music played for what felt like forever before a cheerful voice answered, "Thank you for calling Mobile Plus. This is Sarah. How can I help you today?" "Hi, I'm calling about a family plan notification I just received." My voice sounded strange, too casual, like I was trying too hard to seem normal. I just wanted to confirm the details. "Of course. Can I have the primary account holder's name and the last 4 digits of their social?" I gave Linda's information. After 28 years of marriage, I knew it by heart. There was a moment of keyboard clicking, then Sarah's voice returned, still bright. "Yes, I see the Premium Family Plan for Two activated 3 months ago. It's showing 2 connected numbers. Would you like me to verify them?" "Please." My throat felt dry. The primary line ends in 445, and the connected number ends in 572. These share unlimited calls and texts between them. Is there anything else you'd like to know about the plan? 572, not my number. Definitely not my number. Sir, are you still there? Yeah, I managed. Just one more thing. Can you tell me when these numbers typically connect? Like, are there peak usage times? More clicking. Looking at the pattern, there's regular activity during lunch hours and quite a bit of evening calls, especially after 9 p.m., the plans being well utilized. Thanks, I said, my voice hollow. That's very helpful. After hanging up, I sat at my desk, staring at nothing. My hands were steady, but something inside me was shaking apart. 9 p.m. calls, regular lunch hour connections, a special plan Linda had set up 3 months ago. Each detail felt like another crack in the foundation of my life. I pulled up our carrier's website on my computer. Linda had made me a secondary account holder years ago. Just in case there's ever an emergency, honey. Funny how that throwaway decision would come back around. The login took a few tries, my fingers kept hitting wrong keys, the call logs loaded, and there it was. That number, 572. Not just calls, but a pattern. Every lunch break, late nights, weekends when Linda said she was taking a break from her phone. The timestamps told a story I didn't want to read but couldn't stop scanning through. Tom? Mike knocked on my office door. That shipment from Cleveland needs your sign-off. Yeah, give me a minute. My voice sounded normal. How could it sound so normal? I clicked through to the text message logs. The preview snippets were like punches to the gut. Miss you already. Can't wait until... Last night was... I closed the browser before I could read more. The warehouse walls felt too close, the air too thick. 28 years of marriage, and I'd never once checked up on Linda's calls or messages. I'd never had a reason to. Now I couldn't stop myself from replaying every recent memory, looking for clues I'd missed. The late meetings that ran long, the new yoga class on Thursdays, the way she'd step outside to take calls, saying the reception was better in the backyard. All these little moments I'd accepted without question, because why wouldn't I? She was Linda, my Linda. Except maybe she wasn't. Maybe she hadn't been for a while now. I signed the Cleveland paperwork without really seeing it. Mike gave me an odd look, probably noticed something was off, but didn't ask. Small mercies. I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. Saying it would make it real. And I needed time to think, to plan. Because one thing was becoming crystal clear. I needed to know everything. And whoever 572 was, they had no idea I was coming. The drive home that evening was the longest of my life. Every red light was a chance for my mind to replay those call logs, those message previews. I kept seeing the numbers in my head. 572, 9 p.m., 3 months. Each one a little betrayal, adding up to something I still couldn't fully face. Linda's car was already in the driveway when I pulled up. Through the kitchen window, I could see her moving around, probably starting dinner like any other Thursday. My key felt heavy in my hand. For the first time in 28 years, I hesitated before opening my own front door. "You're home early." Her voice was cheerful, normal. She was chopping vegetables, her phone face down on the counter beside her. That phone, how many times had I seen it exactly like that and never thought anything of it? Yeah, slow afternoon. The lie came easily. I'd actually left the warehouse 2 hours late, driving around aimlessly, trying to get my head straight. Need any help? Could you set the table? I'm trying that new recipe from Sarah's cooking blog. I watched her as I gathered plates and silverware. She was humming, completely at ease. Was she thinking about him? Planning another secret call once I fell asleep? The fork in my hand started to bend, and I had to consciously relax my grip. Her phone buzzed, just once, a text. I saw her glance at it, the smallest flicker of something. crossing her face before she went back to chopping. She didn't pick it up, didn't check it. But I knew that casual non-reaction was too perfect, too practiced. "Everything okay?" I asked, voice level. "Oh, probably just work. You know how they are with after-hours emails." I did know. I also knew her work used a separate phone for emails. Dinner was surreal. We talked about normal things, my warehouse issues, her office politics, plans for the weekend. She mentioned her yoga class tomorrow night. Every word out of her mouth felt like it could be a lie, but I kept my face neutral, laughed at the right moments, played my part. Because now I had a choice to make. I could confront her tonight, blow everything up right here in our kitchen. Or I could wait. Watch. Learn exactly how deep this betrayal went. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it again, and I made my choice. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 5 years. Mike could handle the warehouse for 1 day. I waited until Linda left for work, kissing me goodbye like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't spent who knows how long making a fool of me. The moment her car turned the corner, I went to work. First stop, our home office. Linda kept all our paperwork in a filing cabinet, tax returns, bills, everything organized with her usual efficiency. The phone bills were right where I expected, neatly labeled by month. I spread them across the desk, creating a timeline. 3 months ago, the plan changed, but the affair? That had to have started earlier. Going back 6 months, I started seeing it. Increased data usage, more texts, calls getting longer and more frequent to that same number, 572, like watching a cancer grow through our phone records. The signs were all there in black and white, archived in Linda's perfect filing system. My hands were shaking when I found the earliest bill with that number. 8 months ago. 8 fucking months of lies over dinner, lies in our bed, lies about working late, and yoga classes. Every kiss, every "I love you," every moment of our life together tainted by that number, 572. I needed more. The phone records weren't enough. They showed the when, but not the who. I logged into our cell carrier's website again, digging deeper into the account settings. Linda had set up autopay, linking it to our joint checking account. Every month, like clockwork, paying for her secret connection. The website had an option to add more lines to the family plan. "Connect with your loved ones," the ad chirped. 3 empty slots available. I stared at that screen for a long time, an idea taking shape. If I added a line, if I could somehow get that same number. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Mike from the warehouse. "Hey, Tom, sorry to bother you while you're sick, but we've got a situation with the Johnson order." What kind of situation? I was already closing browser tabs, covering my tracks. "They're saying the shipment's short by 2 pallets. I've got the manifest right here, but..." I walked him through it, my work voice on autopilot, while my mind raced ahead. I needed to go to the carrier's store, get that number. But first, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. Opening a new browser tab, I started searching Linda's email address, social media, LinkedIn, anything public. Her company's website listed all their employees. I scrolled through, looking for men around her age, anyone who might have special access to her day. The accounting department, the IT guys, other managers. The admin team photo caught my eye. Linda in the middle, smiling that smile I thought was just for me. And there, 2 people over, a face I'd seen at company parties but never really noticed. Ron Mitchell, administrative coordinator. About my height, but fitter, graying at the temples in that distinguished way some women like. The kind of guy who probably knew all about phones and family plans. I opened LinkedIn again, searched his name, and there it was, a phone number listed right on his professional profile. My vision blurred as I read the last 3 digits. 572. The pencil I was holding snapped in my grip. Linda had officially left for her yoga class an hour ago. Right now, she was probably with him, laughing about how easy it was to fool her trusting husband. How convenient their special phone plan was, letting them talk whenever they wanted. I opened our bank website, pulled up the statement from the last company party 6 months ago, found the photo gallery on the company website, started piecing together nights when Linda worked late with charges from restaurants I'd never been to, places nice enough for a romantic dinner, not the quick takeout she'd claimed. Every new detail was like acid in my veins, burning away the man I used to be, the trusting husband, the good-natured fool, leaving something harder, colder, someone who had a lot of planning to do. I spent that night in our guest room, telling Linda I felt too sick to risk giving her my cold. She bought it easily, another lie added to the pile, but this one was mine. I lay there scrolling through Ron Mitchell's social media presence, learning about the man who'd destroyed my life. He was divorced, no kids, posted about wine tastings and jazz concerts, the kind of cultured crap Linda had started getting interested in lately. His photos showed a man comfortable in expensive suits, always with that same confident smile, the kind of smile that said he was used to getting what he wanted, including my wife. Sleep wasn't happening, so I started making lists. Times Linda worked late, twice a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yoga class on Friday evenings, weekend errands that took just a little too long. I documented everything, building a calendar of betrayal in the Notes app on my phone. The next morning, I went to work like everything was normal, had to keep up appearances. But during my lunch break, I drove to the mobile carrier's store across town. No way I was risking the one near our house. "How can I help you today?" The sales guy was young, eager. Name tag said Derek. Need to add a line to my plan. I handed over Linda's account details. Want to surprise my wife, so I'm hoping to keep it quiet. No problem. We can... He typed something, frowned. Oh, looks like you've got the premium family plan for 2. That's actually maxed out at 2 lines. But I can upgrade you to... Actually, I cut in. I was wondering if I could take over the second line, transfer the number to a new phone. More typing. Sorry, sir, that line's active on a different device. We'd need the primary account holder to... Right. Thanks anyway. I turned to leave, then stopped. Just curious if someone wanted to, obtain a specific number. Is that possible? Derek glanced around, lowered his voice. I mean, technically yes, if the number's available. There's a form for requesting specific numbers, but it's usually for businesses. I slid my credit card across the counter. How about we discuss that form? 2 hours and $300 later, I had what I needed. Paperwork requesting number 572, if it ever became available. Derek had been very helpful, after I mentioned it was for a special surprise. I didn't specify what kind of surprise. Back at the warehouse, I buried myself in inventory reports while my mind worked the problem. I had the number lined up. Now, I needed a plan, something that would expose them completely, undeniably, something that would make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of people they really were. My phone buzzed, Linda asking what I wanted for dinner. Such a normal question, such a caring wife. I imagined her sending similar texts to Ron, coordinating their little romance while playing house with me. The screen cracked a little where my thumb pressed too hard. That's when I remembered. Linda's birthday was coming up, 3 weeks away. She'd been dropping hints about wanting to have people over, a nice dinner party with friends and colleagues. We never entertain anymore, she'd said, giving me that look that usually got her way, including Ron, probably. He'd been to our house before, at other gatherings, always perfectly polite, shaking my hand, complimenting my grilling skills, probably laughing inside at the oblivious husband cooking for his wife's lover. A dinner party, all her friends, her work colleagues, the people she cared about impressing, the perfect audience. I texted back, "Actually, honey, why don't we plan that birthday dinner you wanted? You deserve to celebrate." Her response came quickly. "Really? That would be wonderful. I'll start making a guest list." I bet you will, I thought, watching the typing indicator as she sent more excited messages. Make your list. Invite your friends. Invite your lover. It was going to be one hell of a party. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in controlled rage. Every morning, I'd kiss Linda goodbye like nothing was wrong. Every evening, I'd listen to her talk about party plans while silently counting her lies. She'd invited 20 people, friends, colleagues, including Ron and his new girlfriend. That detail almost made me lose it right there. How thoughtful of him to bring someone, I said, keeping my voice casual. Wouldn't want him to feel like a third wheel among all the couples. Linda's hand paused for just a fraction of a second as she wrote down his RSVP. Yes, he's been seeing her for a few months now. Sarah from accounting keeps trying to get all the gossip. More lies, always more lies. I spent my lunch breaks at the mobile store with Derek, finalizing the paperwork for the number transfer. It would be ready 2 days before the party. Perfect timing. You sure about this, sir? Derek asked as I signed the final form. Once we process this, that number's yours. The current user will lose service immediately. I thought about all those evening calls, all those secret messages. Yeah, I'm sure. Consider it an early birthday gift. The warehouse kept me busy, which helped. I threw myself into inventory counts and shipping schedules, anything to keep my hands occupied while my mind worked through the plan. Mike noticed something was off, but knew better than to ask. Good man, Mike. Loyal, honest. Everything Ron Mitchell wasn't. At home, I watched Linda planning the party with growing excitement. She ordered new wine glasses, planned an elaborate menu, kept talking about how nice it would be to have everyone we care about in one room. The irony was enough to choke on. 3 days before the party, I bought a cheap burner phone. Nothing fancy, just something that could make calls and send texts. The kind of phone you wouldn't mind leaving behind. 2 days before, right on schedule, Derek called to confirm the number transfer was complete. Somewhere across town, Ron Mitchell's phone went dead. I imagined his confusion, his calls to customer service. Maybe he even called Linda, but not on their special direct line, not anymore. The night before the party, I sat in my home office after Linda went to bed, staring at the burner phone. Ron's number, my number now, glowed on the screen. In a few hours, it would all be over. Our marriage, her reputation, the comfortable lies she'd built around herself. Part of me still loved her, and that part was screaming to stop, to confront her privately, to find some other way. But then I thought about that family plan, about how she'd set it up deliberately, calculated the best way to stay connected to her lover. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a sudden temptation. This was months of careful planning, of systematic betrayal. She'd chosen how this started. I was going to choose how it ended. I typed out a test message and sent it to Linda's phone. In our bedroom, I heard the faint buzz of her receiving it. Tomorrow, that same buzz would be her downfall. I cleared the message and powered down the burner phone, slipped it into my jacket pocket for tomorrow. Then I headed up to bed to lie next to my wife one last time while she dreamed of her perfect birthday party. The party she had no idea would be her last good day in this house, in this marriage, in this life she'd built on lies. Tomorrow was going to change everything, and I was ready. The party started at 7. I watched Linda flutter around the house all day, arranging flowers, checking the catering, making everything perfect. She'd chosen a dark blue dress that made her look 10 years younger. I wondered if she'd bought it for Ron's benefit. Honey, could you make sure we have enough ice? She was adjusting appetizer plates for the 5th time. And maybe check if the white wine is chilled enough? Got it covered. The burner phone felt heavy in my pocket. I'd checked it a dozen times already, making sure everything was set. One button. That's all it would take. Guests started arriving right on time. Linda's college friend Susan and her husband. 2 couples from her office. Mike from my warehouse. I'd invited him last minute, wanting at least one person there who was firmly on my side. He brought his wife Jenny, who immediately joined the kitchen conversation about Linda's new appetizer recipe. I played my part, took coats, poured drinks, smiled at all the birthday wishes for Linda. Every time the doorbell rang, my hand twitched toward my pocket, but it wasn't time yet. Had to wait for everyone. Had to make sure there was a proper audience. "Tom," Linda called from the kitchen, "can you open another bottle of white? Sarah was just telling me the most interesting story about her trip to wine country." I was opening the wine when the doorbell rang again. Through the front window, I saw Ron's car pulling away from the curb. He'd dropped someone off, his girlfriend, before parking, trying to be subtle, careful. Linda answered the door herself this time. "Rebecca, so glad you could make it." A woman I'd never seen before walked in, all perfect makeup and practiced smile. One of Ron's cover stories, obviously. I wondered if she even knew her role in all this. "Ron's just parking the car," Rebecca announced. He insisted on being a gentleman. Linda's smile didn't even flicker. "That's Ron for you, always so considerate." I gripped the wine bottle harder, focusing on the cold glass to keep my composure. The front door opened again, and there he was. Ron Mitchell, Administrative Coordinator, number 572, my wife's lover, walking into my house with a bottle of wine and that same confident smile I'd seen in his photos. "Linda, happy birthday." He handed her the wine, some expensive label. Their hands didn't touch during the exchange. They were good at this. Practiced. "Tom, great to see you, man. Thanks for having us." I shook his hand, smiled, made some comment about the wine, played my role perfectly. Inside, I was cataloging every detail. His casual designer outfit, his carefully styled hair, the way his eyes followed Linda when he thought no one was looking. The party was in full swing now, 18 people scattered through our living room and kitchen, talking and laughing. Linda was in her element, moving from group to group, the perfect hostess. Every now and then, she and Ron would end up in the same conversation cluster, all professional distance and polite laughter. I checked my watch. Almost time for the birthday toast. Linda had been dropping hints about wanting to thank everyone for coming. One big heartfelt moment before cutting the cake. Perfect. I watched Linda touch her phone for the 5th time in as many minutes. She was getting antsy about the missed calls from Ron's now-dead number, trying not to show it. Each time, she'd glance at it casually, like someone checking the time. But I knew better. I knew exactly what she was thinking. Why isn't he responding? What's wrong with his phone? Meanwhile, Ron kept his cool, but I caught him checking his own phone too. Probably tried calling customer service already, found out his number had been accidentally transferred. Too late to fix it now, buddy. Time for a toast? Mike appeared at my elbow, reading the room like the good warehouse manager he was. Looks like everyone's got a full glass. Perfect timing. I raised my voice slightly. Everyone? Could I have your attention? The conversations quieted. Linda beamed at me from across the room, that special smile she used to reserve just for me. Now I wondered how many men had seen that smile. Or was it different for Ron? Did she have a special one just for him? First, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I moved to the center of the room, making sure I had clear sight lines to both Linda and Ron. It means so much to have all our closest friends here, the people we trust, the people who are important in our lives. Murmurs of agreement. Linda's friend Susan wiped away a preemptive tear, always emotional at parties. Ron took a casual sip of his wine. His girlfriend Rebecca smiled politely, probably wondering how much longer she had to play her part. Linda and I have been married 28 years, I continued. That's a long time to share a life with someone, to build trust, to create something special. My hand moved to my jacket pocket, feeling the burner phone. These days, everything's about connection, isn't it? Phones, computers, social media, so many ways to stay in touch with the people who matter. Linda's smile flickered slightly. Just a tiny tell, but I saw it. She knew something was off about my tone but couldn't quite place it. Take phone plans, for example. I pulled out my regular phone, held it up. Linda's always been great at finding the best deals, making sure we stay connected. I looked directly at her, especially these last 8 months or so. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Linda's face went perfectly still. Across the room, Ron shifted his weight ever so slightly, wine glass frozen halfway to his lips. "Honey?" Linda's voice was steady, but I heard the undertone of panic. "Maybe we should cut the cake." "Actually, I've got something special planned first. A little surprise I've been working on." I reached into my other pocket where the burner phone waited. "You see, I recently learned about this amazing family plan for two that my wife set up. Premium package, unlimited calls and texts between connected numbers." Linda's face went white. Ron's hand tightened on his wine glass. But nobody else seemed to notice. They were all focused on me, probably thinking this was leading to some romantic gesture. "The funny thing about phone plans," I said, pulling out the burner phone, "is how much they can tell you about a person, about their connections, their priorities." I looked directly at Ron, their choices. The burner phone felt light in my hand now. Everything felt light, like I was floating above the scene, watching it all unfold. Linda took a half step forward, mouth opening to say something, to stop me, to make excuses, to tell more lies. Too late. My thumb found the call button. The room fell silent except for the soft electronic buzz of a phone ringing. Not just any ring, that specific ringtone Linda had set for her special contacts. I knew it well, had heard it so many times when she'd step out to take calls in the backyard. But this time, it wasn't coming from her pocket or her purse. It was coming from her phone on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up, displaying the contact name she'd saved for number 572. Ron. The silence stretched for one heartbeat, 2, 3. Someone gasped, probably Susan. A wine glass shattered, definitely Ron's. Linda stood frozen, her perfect hostess smile cracking at the edges like ancient pottery. "Aren't you going to answer it?" My voice sounded strange in the silence, calm, almost gentle. It could be important. All those evening calls, lunch break chats, wouldn't want to miss one now. "Tom." Linda's voice was barely a whisper. "Please." "Please what?" I kept dialing. Her phone kept ringing. The heart emoji kept flashing. "Please don't show everyone how you've been spending your yoga nights. Please don't mention the 8 months of lies. Please don't ruin the perfect little story you've built." Rebecca, Ron's fake girlfriend, was already backing toward the door. Smart woman. Mike had moved closer to me, protective, but not interfering. The rest of the guests were statues, watching the scene unfold like a car crash in slow motion. "I can explain," Linda started, but I cut her off. "Explain what? The family plan you set up just for you two? The lunch dates? The late-night calls?" With each question, I hit redial. Her phone kept lighting up, that damned heart emoji pulsing like an accusation. "Or maybe explain why you brought your lover to our house to my face with his fake girlfriend as cover?" Heads whipped toward Ron. He'd backed up against the wall, face gray, looking everywhere except at Linda. "All those company parties," I continued, each word precise, measured. "All those times I shook your hand, Ron, welcomed you into my home, and you were fucking my wife the whole time. This isn't—" Ron finally found his voice. "We should discuss this privately." "Privately?" I laughed. The sound was harsh, unfamiliar. "Like all those private calls on your special phone plan? Sorry, but that number's not in service anymore. I took care of that yesterday. Consider it my birthday gift to you both." Linda's legs gave out. She caught herself on the kitchen counter, next to that betraying phone that was finally, blessedly silent. The screen still showed the missed calls, 5 notifications, all from the number that used to belong to her lover. 28 years, I said into the suffocating quiet. 28 years of marriage, and you couldn't even be bothered to use a burner phone. Had to put it on our family plan. Had to make me pay for your little romance. The room was emptying now, party guests slipping out like smoke, leaving behind half-full glasses and uneaten appetizers. Susan was crying. Mike's wife, Jenny, was helping Rebecca find her coat. Ron looked like he wanted to dissolve into the wallpaper. I turned to Linda one last time. "Happy birthday, honey. Hope it was worth it." Then I walked to the front door, pulled it open, and stepped out into the cool night air. Behind me, I heard the first sob break free from Linda's throat. It sounded like freedom. I made it halfway down the driveway before Mike caught up with me. The sounds from the house spilled out into the night, raised voices, hurried goodbyes, the chaos of a social circle imploding. "Keys." Mike held out his hand. "Jenny can follow in our car." I almost argued, but the adrenaline crash was already hitting. My hands were shaking so hard I probably couldn't drive anyway. I handed them over. As Mike guided me to the passenger side, I saw Ron practically running to his car, phone pressed to his ear. Probably calling his service provider, trying to figure out what happened to his precious connection. His girlfriend, Rebecca, was already gone. Smart woman. Probably had some experience being the cover story. We were pulling away when Linda appeared in the doorway. Even from a distance, I could see her mascara running, that perfect party makeup, ruined by tears. She called my name, once, twice, but Mike kept driving. Through the side mirror, I watched her figure grow smaller until she disappeared around the corner. "Want to talk about it?" Mike's voice was carefully neutral. 8 months. The words felt like broken glass in my throat. 8 fucking months of lies, right under my nose. You couldn't have known, Tom. Should have. All those signs. I pulled out the burner phone, stared at it, had to find out from a goddamn phone plan notification. Mike drove in silence for a while. I recognized the route. He was taking me to his place. Probably for the best. Couldn't go home. Not tonight. Maybe not ever again. My regular phone started buzzing. Linda, then Susan, then Linda again. I turned it off. "You know the worst part?" I said as we hit a red light. I kept the receipts, from the account setup, the number transfer, everything. Paid cash, used a different store, planned it all so carefully, but she didn't even try to hide it, just set up that family plan like it was nothing, like I was too stupid to ever check. The light turned green. Through the windshield I could see other houses with their warm windows, families having normal Saturday nights, people whose worlds weren't shattering into pieces. "What happens now?" Mike asked. I thought about the file folder in my desk at work, the phone records, the credit card statements showing romantic dinners disguised as late meetings, the carefully documented timeline of betrayal. Now? My laugh sounded hollow. Now I burn it all down. First thing Monday, I'm calling my lawyer. She wanted to share a family plan? Fine. She can share explaining to a judge why she used our joint account to fund her affair. Mike nodded slowly. "You need anything? Place to stay, help moving stuff?" "Yeah." I looked down at the burner phone one last time, then rolled down the window. The phone made a satisfying splash as it hit a storm drain. "I need you to help me pack up 28 years of lies." In my pocket, the ghost of Linda's contact name still burned in my memory. Ron. Such a small thing, such a stupid, careless detail, the kind of mistake people make when they think they're too clever to get caught, the kind of mistake that brings down everything. Mike's guest room became my command center. By midnight, my phone had 43 missed calls and 68 text messages. Linda, Susan, even Ron, probably trying to do damage control. I ignored them all and focused on my laptop, methodically documenting everything while it was still fresh. Jenny brought us coffee and leftover lasagna, then tactfully disappeared to give us space. Mike sat with me watching as I pulled up bank statements, phone records, credit card bills, every piece of evidence I'd gathered over the past weeks, now organized into a digital paper trail of betrayal. Look at this, I pointed to a series of charges. Valentine's Day dinner at Lorenzo's. She told me she was working late on a project deadline. $230 of project deadline. Tom, Mike hesitated. You don't have to do this right now? Yeah, I do. I pulled up another statement. Christmas shopping day at the mall. Remember how she came home late? Said she got stuck in holiday traffic? Actually, at the Marriott downtown. Room service charges right here. Each new discovery was like ripping open a wound, but I couldn't stop. The more I dug, the more I found. Movie tickets on nights she was supposedly at yoga, gas station charges in areas of town she had no reason to be in, little breadcrumbs of deception leading right to her lover's door. Around 1 a.m., my email pinged. Linda. Tom, please let me explain what you saw tonight. It's not what you think. We need to talk about this. Come home, please. I showed the email to Mike. Not what I think. What else could 8 months of secret calls and hotel rooms be? You don't have to respond. Oh, but I do. I opened a new email. Attached all the PDFs I'd compiled, every statement, every record, every piece of evidence. She wants to talk. Let's talk about this charge at Victoria's Secret, or these late-night Uber rides, or maybe the jewelry store receipt from last month that definitely wasn't for anything I received. I hit send, then immediately started a new email to my lawyer. Same attachments, plus a draft timeline of the affair I'd been working on. The subject line was simple. Meeting requested. Divorce proceedings. My hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped somewhere between the third cup of coffee and the 20th damning credit card statement. In its place was something harder, colder, more focused. Linda's response came within minutes. Please don't do this. We can work through this. I'll end it with Ron. I'll do anything. 28 years, Tom. Don't throw that away. She threw it away, I told Mike, who was reading over my shoulder. Every time she called him, every time she lied about where she was, every time she set up that goddamn family plan thinking I was too stupid to notice. My phone buzzed again. Ron this time, breaking his silence. Tom, I understand you're angry, but this public humiliation doesn't help anyone. Let's discuss this like rational adults. Rational adults? I laughed, and the sound was ugly. Like rationally setting up a phone plan for your affair? Or rationally bringing your fake girlfriend to your lover's birthday party? I forwarded all of Ron's messages to my lawyer, too. Documentation, evidence, ammunition. You should try to sleep, Mike said quietly. Tomorrow's going to be rough. Tomorrow's going to be productive. I was already drafting another email, this one to HR at Linda's company. Think they'll enjoy knowing how their administrative coordinator conducts his internal affairs? Tom? What? I turned to face him. She brought him into my house, Mike, made me shake his hand, serve him drinks, all while they were laughing at what a trusting fool I was. You think I should just let that go? Mike was quiet for a long moment. Then, no. But I think you should do this smart, do it right, make it stick. He was right, of course. The lawyer would need everything properly organized. The divorce proceedings would require clear documentation. The company complaint would need to be professionally worded. I looked at my watch. 1:47 a.m. Linda's birthday was officially over. Time to start dismantling her perfect little world, one piece of evidence at a time. By Sunday afternoon, Linda's perfectly crafted world was crumbling. Word had spread through her social circle. Susan's tearful calls to mutual friends, party guests sharing the story, the inevitable social media whispers. Her reputation as the perfect wife, carefully maintained for nearly 3 decades, was dissolving like sugar in rain. I sat in Mike's kitchen, watching my phone light up with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was there for me. Everyone was shocked that Linda could do such a thing. Everyone except me. I was done being shocked. HR responded, I told Mike, showing him the email. Meeting scheduled for Monday morning. Turns out companies take a pretty dim view of managers using business events to conduct affairs. Tom. Mike set down his coffee. Are you sure about this? Going nuclear? She brought him to my house. The words came out flat, emotionless. To my dinner table, made me serve him wine and smile at his jokes. There's no coming back from that. My lawyer had already drafted the initial divorce papers. Given the evidence, she wrote, we're in a very strong position, the documented misuse of joint funds alone. A car pulled into Mike's driveway. Through the window, I saw Linda getting out. She looked terrible, makeup-free, hair messy, wearing the same clothes from last night. She'd been crying. Want me to tell her to leave? Mike asked. No. I stood up. Time to finish this. I met her at the door before she could knock. Up close, she looked even worse. Gone was the polished admin professional, the confident hostess. This was Linda stripped bare, desperate and afraid. Tom, please, her voice cracked. Just give me 5 minutes. Why? So you can lie more? Tell me how it didn't mean anything? How Ron was just a mistake? I'll end it, I swear. We can go to counseling. Work through this. Work through what, Linda? Work through 8 months of lies? Through you setting up a special phone plan just to talk to him? Through you bringing him to our house? She flinched at each question. I never meant to get caught, I finished. That's the only thing you never meant to happen. What do you want me to say? Tears were streaming down her face now. That I'm sorry? I'm sorry? That I made a horrible mistake? I did. Just tell me how to fix this. I looked at her, really looked at her. 28 years of memories, thousands of morning kisses, millions of moments I thought were real, all tainted now, all poisoned by 8 months of calculated betrayal. Check your email, I said quietly. I sent you everything, every receipt, every hotel charge, every call log. The lawyer's already drawing up papers. HR wants to meet with Ron tomorrow morning. It's over, Linda, all of it. You're destroying everything, she whispered. No. My voice was ice. You did that. Every time you called him, every time you lied about where you were, every time you brought him into our home and made me play the fool. This? I gestured at her tears, her desperation. This is just consequences. Tom? The lawyer will contact you about the house. Don't go back there. Stay with Susan or someone. I don't care. Just don't be there. I closed the door on her next words, on her tears, on 28 years of what I'd thought was love. Through the window, I watched her collapse into her car, shoulders shaking with sobs. Mike appeared beside me, holding out a fresh cup of coffee. You okay? No. I took the coffee. But I will be. 1 month later, I stood in the carrier's store, watching Derek process my new phone plan. Single line? He asked, though he already knew the answer. He'd been there for the whole thing after all, had helped me get that final number that brought everything crashing down. Single line, I confirmed. No family plans, no sharing, just me. The aftermath of Linda's birthday party had been exactly what you'd expect. Ron resigned from the company before HR could fire him, pursuing other opportunities, according to the official announcement. His wife from 2 years ago called me, wanted to compare notes about dates and times. Turned out Linda wasn't his first office romance, just his last. Linda moved in with Susan temporarily, then found an apartment across town. The divorce was proceeding smoothly. Amazing how cooperative people get when you have everything documented. The house would be sold, assets divided, 28 years of marriage reduced to spreadsheets and legal documents. Okay, you're all set, Derek said, pushing the paperwork across the counter. New number activated, clean slate. Clean slate. I liked that. The warehouse had been surprisingly normal. Mike told the essential story to key people, headed off the gossip before it could start. My workers still respected me, maybe even more now. The wronged husband who kept his dignity got his revenge without throwing a single punch, just cold, methodical justice. I drove home to my new apartment and started unpacking another box of my life. The divorce settlement had given me most of the furniture, not that I wanted it. Everything went to consignment shops or Goodwill. New life, new stuff. No memories. Susan called once, trying to play peacemaker. Told me Linda was really struggling, had lost weight, couldn't sleep, was seeing a therapist. I listened politely and said what I'd been saying for weeks. She made her choices. Now she's living with them. The phone company sent one final bill for the old account. The family plan for 2, now terminated. I paid it without looking at the call log. Didn't need to see any more evidence of their connection. Didn't need to count the minutes they'd spent betraying me. My new apartment was on the top floor of a renovated industrial building. Exposed brick, high ceilings, giant windows. Nothing like the suburban house I'd shared with Linda. At 56, I was starting over. Should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like freedom. Mike and Jenny had me over for dinner regularly. Their kids called me Uncle Tom, drew me pictures, asked innocent questions about why I didn't live in my old house anymore. Sometimes grown-ups need a fresh start, I told them. Simple truth for a complicated situation. The last box contained photos, 28 years of smiling faces, captured moments, preserved lies. I thought about burning them, considered shredding them, finally settled on storing them in the basement storage unit. Not for me, for the nieces and nephews who might want family history someday. Let them learn from the past while I focused on the future. My new phone buzzed, a message from my lawyer. The divorce papers were ready for final signatures. Linda had agreed to all terms, hadn't contested anything. Hard to contest evidence in black and white, documented in phone records and credit card statements. Her perfect exit strategy had become the perfect proof of her betrayal. I poured a glass of whiskey and stood by the window, watching the city lights come on. Somewhere out there, Linda was probably in her new apartment, living with her choices. Ron was probably updating his resume, looking for a job far from the scandal. Their secret connection, their precious family plan for 2, had blown up in their faces. My phone buzzed again. A dating app notification this time. Mike's wife had insisted I install it, said I needed to get back out there. Maybe someday. Not yet. For now, I was content with my single life, my single phone line, my single focus on building something new. I opened my phone's contacts, scrolled through the handful of numbers I'd chosen to keep. Mike, Jenny, my lawyer, my siblings. The people who actually deserved to be part of my life. Clean, simple, honest. No family plans, no secret connections, no hidden messages. Just me starting over at 56 with nothing but truth in my call log and possibility on my horizon.